Who's on first?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the Douglas School Committee to order on January 15th, 2025 at 6:30. I'd like to read the Douglas mission statement. The Douglas Public Schools offer a diverse learning experience that meet the academic, social, physical, and emotional needs of all of our students. We provide a safe, supportive, and challenging learning environment to which students may achieve academic success and personal growth. Decisions are made in the best interest of our students. Please rise for a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We have student representatives here tonight, Ms. Sadie O'Toole and Meg Brazo. If you could please come up.
Hi, I'm Sadie O'Toole. I'm a junior at Douglas.
I'm Meg Brazo. I'm also a junior at Douglas.
So here are some highlights from the past month. So the girls' soccer team went to the State House to be honored for their championship win.
Woohoo!
DECA competed in their regional competition with 7 students qualifying for the state competition in Boston.
Awesome.
Girls' basketball is currently ranked 9th in Division 5. Wow. Before break, we competed in door decorating and advisory, and the Stars and Stripes Advisory won. Also before break, our drama club put on a holiday-themed show, The Elf on the Shelf Must Be Stocked. This was a comical, albeit dark show put on under new direction from Miss Woodford and Mrs. DePaula. The students performing found their inner child during this dark comedy. The day before break, we held our annual musical chairs competition with the winners being senior Olivia DeFalco in the student division and PE teacher Mrs. Sokol in the faculty division. We also held a class-based scavenger hunt, which was won by the senior class, and a volleyball tournament won by the boys and girls track team. The day was capped off with a performance by the Hortons in the auditorium.
And here are some upcoming events. Mid-year exams are next week, and we are preparing hard for these as they are worth 10% of our grade for a full year class and 20% worth for a half year class. Report cards are coming out the week after midterms. For freshmen, this will mark their first experience with these exams, while seasoned upperclassmen will be prepared. We will be holding our first MyCap Special Advisory Day on the Tuesday after exams. During this day, each class will be a part of a structured group to build focused skills geared around college and career readiness. Snowball is kicking off Winter Carnival on Saturday, February 8th from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Winter Carnival events will be the following Friday before February break. These include window painting, lip sync, relay races, quiz bowl, and family feud, to name a few of the events. This year we'll crown a new champion, and so far the junior class is very active with lip sync and planning for our window painting.
Any questions for you?
So are you ladies ready for midterms?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. It's so
Thank
cold
you so
out there.
much.
Be careful
coming in.
driving home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody here for public comment? Seeing that there is none, I'm going to move on to, do we have any old business to discuss? Moving on to new business and the superintendent's report, please.
All right, so first we have presentation by Mr. O'Brien to come up and talk a little bit about MyCap and MIFA. And is Heather going to do it, or you're? So you're going to, so you'll be pinch hitting. And we heard a little bit about it at the high school. We've also been able to bring MyCap career and academic planning starting at the middle school. So, Mr. O'Brien, the floor is yours.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I think we all know asking kids or students, what do you want to be when you grow up? So they've been doing MyCap how long at the high school, Mr. Ringat?
We started planning last year. We are fully implementing this year.
So we're in the planning stages. The good news is where the Douglas Middle School is ahead of the majority of the middle schools in the Commonwealth right now in this plan. And this is due to the hard work of Miss Antinovica. She's teaching a college class tonight, so she couldn't be here. She was at our last Zoom meeting, but that was shut down unexpectedly. So we ask students, what do you want to be when you grow up? The MyCap and MIFA plan has them try to tie together what they are learning in the classroom with their interests to start getting an idea of what type of career goals they could have. Right now, we got about 18% of our students in a class that she teaches. And they're looking at personality traits, what do you like to do, kind of broadening that vision way ahead of time. So they can see the correlation of what they're learning in the classroom to their own interests and hopefully end up with a rewarding career. So they do with personality and social identity. There's a career development piece, a financial literacy piece, and then finally, academic, college, and career planning. And hopefully, schools that have done this well, it really helps students engage better in the classroom.
How many schools I know this is a big thing at the high school. Do you know how many middle schools in the Commonwealth are doing this?
At the training that she went to, I believe there were only two other middle schools at that training. Wow. So.
But this is the foundation, right? That this is really where that should be targeted towards, is our middle school, so that they can start getting that thinking of when they're picking their courses, right? So I applaud, because this is what we need to do.
So it's MyCap, My Career and Academic Plan. Again, how do you get the juices flowing? So when you teach a student, why are we learning this? Well, this is why. So again, there's career exploration, financial literacy, which you can never learn too young. Personal social, there's a big SEL component to this as well. And then it's that academic planning, what I need to get to go from A to B along the way. Our roadmap this was our plan year. So again, we had about 16% of our students, grades 6 through 8, involved in a class. They take it as an elective. We want to be fully implemented by next year. And then on the 26-27 school year, 100% continue staffing, data-informed, everything that the state's suggesting, because this just was pushed down to 6 through 12. And then 27-28, 100% of the students will have the MyCap and MIFO. What they are looking for in that is basically a digital portfolio to show what the students have learned up to date. So it's really taking all the things of education, including that SEL piece, tying it together so they can start exploring why we are learning this material and what to do. And when I ask students, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I'm looking for ideas still. So hopefully this will get them thinking about their future and tying it back into what's important in the classroom. Ms. Antinovica's worked very hard on this, and I appreciate all her hard work. I wish she was here to put the smiles.
And again, one of the things when we created and the school committee approved that position, one of the things was that position was going to be counselor/adjustment counselor for the purpose of trying to build that grade 6 through grade 12 progression through the Douglas Public Schools. So this is just one of the ways that we're doing it. And again, took at the high school a little bit of time to roll it out. It's great that we have about 20% of our kids. Next year, we'll have all. And just having, like as Bob said, and nice job pinch hitting on the fly for that one. Having kids understand why we're doing this. The financial literacy piece
That's huge.
is huge. I don't know why we don't do more of it inside our schools. I don't know why it's not a mandated class, a required course, but, you know, any youngster who gets their first paycheck and says, what do you mean?
What are these
What's
things?
Medicaid?
What are these things? And what do you mean I have to pay a credit card back with more money than what I bought the shirt for? So all those things are important skills to get, and it's great that we're doing this at the middle school for kids. It's great it'll be next year to have that implemented for 100% of our kids, having that course and having the ability to see that. And then the progression, and then it ties in with what Rob's doing at the high school. We heard today someone say, our first MIFA MyCap Day is coming up.
Yep, it's Tuesday after mid-year exams, so 28th, I believe.
I mean, this is just huge. So, I mean, hats off to Ms. Anaviga. Sorry she couldn't be here tonight to join us. I know it's to implement a program as large as this, but I think we're doing the right thing by focusing on the middle school to integrate it for them to make that educated decision. It's huge, but financial literacy, I mean, I'm an accountant, but I don't think we're doing a good enough job for kids to understand the costs of what it costs to do things.
Nationwide, it's an issue.
So anything we can do to get that financial literacy,
In watching that class and seeing the students in there and the mix of students, just seeing them really bubbled about and the different paths that you might have, I guess that Desi calls it adjustment to practice, but where the conversation turns. And it gets the students' juices flowing, which is nice to see.
so again, thank you so much. Thank you for pinch hitting for us and coming and briefing. Oh,
Don't
totally
go
appreciate
anywhere,
it.
you're next.
Until next.
So next on the agenda is our SEL update. We were able to last year purchase Panorama. And Panorama allows for us to do an SEL screener for students multiple times a year. We did one last year just to kind of have an idea of what it looked like and understand the data. This year, at the beginning of the year, we did that SEL screener, and a lot of our morning meetings, a lot of our interventions, a lot of the things that are being done school-wide are based off of this data that we got from Panorama. So we're going to do an assessment at the beginning of the year and another one at the end of the year to see if the interventions we put in place work. There's roughly about 50 questions the kids answered. Oddly enough, where there were weaknesses and deficiencies was pretty consistent across the three buildings. Bob always gets stuck going at the end, so he feels like his material isn't original. So when I said this presentation was going to happen, he volunteered to go first. I'm like, why do you want to go first? He goes, because I want to get the good stuff out, because I always get to say, and what Cindy said, and what Cindy said, and what Cindy said. There's a lot of information here in this package. So we're just going to go through a little bit about what the program looks like, what it screens for, some of the highlights that we saw with our students, some of the opportunities for growth in our students, and what's being done inside each of the buildings to address that. And then we'll be able to measure growth at the end of the year. Mr. O'Brien.
So thank you. Beginning of the year, 284 middle school students took this survey. It took about 50 minutes to do. There's a little video that they see ahead of time telling them how to answer the questions. There were a lot of blank looks on the students' faces when asked, and I can show you those questions coming up. So one of the sample questions is, how often does a teacher make you explain your answer? Almost never, once in a while, sometimes frequently. When you feel like giving up on a difficult task, how likely is the teacher to make you feel keep trying? And it's not at all likely, somewhat. We all have had those surveys. It's like, well, which teacher are you talking about? The questions the student ask. We also got to remember it's the middle school brain, so whatever happened that morning before they got on the bus could score, make these answers a little difficult depending on the day. And a score of 1 is the lowest and a score of 5 is the highest. And there are scales on Panorama for this. It measures students' perception of teaching and learning in a particular class, and measures students' perception of teaching and learning at the school in general. Within these two categories, Panorama offers several scales or sets of questions that measure specific topics, school climate, teacher-students relationships, etc. A total of 19 scales that measure students' perception of teaching and learning in a particular class or school in general. So once they enter that, we get this feedback on the SEL section of Panorama. So we can see pretty quickly that having a growth mindset and self-efficacy, students need work on that. They might not understand what self-efficacy is. On perseverance, they scored much better. And the administration and the guidance counselors can actually look at the students' answers to see what they learn, or what they're reporting, I should say. So 31% of students, 11%, 31 students have reported strengths in all SEL topics of the year. 55% have reported a strength in at least half. 26% reported a strength in less than half. And 4% of the population, 12 students, reported not having a strength. So the self-efficacy, they were either confused about that or not really sure yet, which goes hand in hand with the adolescent brain. So we're doing some work on self-efficacy, and then also that growth mindset. If you want, if you try, and if you want, you can get there. Just keep that grit. Supportive relationships, it was nice to see that 91% reported a score of 3.5 or higher on that.
It's a
And you're
huge
thinking,
number.
what about the other 9%? So what we do, we take this information, and guidance comes up with the SEL lessons that the related art teachers teach. So each grade level would have a different related art teachers to make sure we catch students in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. During their long block, they take half the time to work on the SEL lessons, and that's once every 7-day cycle. Student scoring in red, we develop an individualized student success plan for that particular weakness, working with guidance and liaisons. So for example, we had some students that didn't think they had an adult they could trust in school. So we targeted that with through the Panorama platform and the individualized student success plans. So to the related arts teachers, what can you do just to start a conversation with this student? What can you do to bring this student out of their shell? Just to make sure that they feel included. And if the student was on an IEP, their liaisons were aware of that as well, that was a strength, because every student should feel at least one trusted adult in the building is there for them. And then there's lessons that go with it. So automatic thoughts, this would be one of the lessons in this activity, since we're going to use a 2-column note framework to identify automatic thoughts and explores knowledge. So that lesson's prepared for the related arts teachers, and that's designed by our guidance counseling department. And sometimes these are called ANTs, automatic negative thoughts, because they pop into our heads a lot more. And again, there is a lesson plan to teach these students how to deal with these automatic negative thoughts. So we're going to do another survey in about a week and a half. Sometimes the students get surveyed out. There's a few surveys we have to do. And then we'll see, have we made gains? Or can we identify the student that maybe went down a lot, and why? What's going on in that student's life where we can assist them to get them through school? And then we can look at the overall score and say, okay, how is that growth mindset? Are we getting through them that you can always improve, that you're not just stuck in a little box? This is a great assistance with our student support team, so we can look and take notes and track those students of, okay, what is going on? I can say that our chronic absenteeism is down dramatically this year, and we made big gains last year. According to Power School numbers, we're, I think, under 3% right now.
Wow,
So that's
really good for the middle school.
that's positive, because showing up is,
Half the
80%
battle.
of success. So we're making a lot of strength. So I'd really like to continue to do this, because that's that part of, are we making progress with the students on the SEL? It's kind of hard to measure, but this platform and this program makes it easy to digest. And then looking at the students' comments themselves, which the teachers can't, like I said, just admin and guidance, we can see if, again, it could have been a bad day, but if it's over and over and over again, we can do it. So we'll do it 3 times a year and keep those SEL lessons fresh, so they're not getting stale in the students' brains.
And one thing that's great about Panorama, and I'm not a rep for them, is it's one-stop shopping. So when you pull up a student, you get their biographical data and all that information. Then it rolls into their grades, first term, second term, third term. Then it rolls into all their attendance information. Then underneath that, it has any behavioral incidents they might have. Underneath that, it rolls into all their local and state test results. Then at the end of that is all this SEL data that they can roll into, and then at the end, notes that are uploaded. So any teacher who at any time, or counselor, or principal, or assistant principal, or dean, who wants to see a complete snapshot, instead of having to go to STAR, to Panorama, to Power School, to 4 different Power School screens, everything's there on one page. You can just scroll down and see all the information, and then create plans and make notes on it. So it's great that it's being used.
And I think the real benefit is next year, when students go to see a new teacher, that teacher can look and get a feel for it, shorten that learning curve of getting to know the student. It might be something as simple as, student loves motorbikes, or a student hates talking in front of the class. So you get that, you lessen the learning curve of the new students, and you can see where their strengths and weaknesses are.
Mr. Ringgit, you have to follow.
Mr. O'Brien.
Bob.
My brain just kind of kicked in. Do families know, have the school adjustment counselors reached out to any of the kids that are maybe in that 4 percentile?
If any student, any parent requests, we give them the answers. We also want the students to remain truthful, so we don't really brag to the students that we can see their answers, but we give that to the parent. But if there's certain, coming up in 2 weeks, we're doing signs of suicide, and unfortunately, we have about a 30% average of students that report that. So those things, those red flag issues are brought up to the parents, so they know. We don't want to keep anything from the parents. At the same point, we want to make sure the students trust us.
It's a balance.
And, but if anybody asks, we give them this information. I would hate for the school to hold my children's information, so just a little common sense with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Evening.
So, I know Bob typically says, as Cindy has said already, so I'm going to say, as Bob has said already. So, the high school has completed their survey. There are some similarities between the middle school and the high school, and I don't necessarily want to repeat those similarities, but at the same time, they're definitely noteworthy. So, as you see, a couple of sample questions here off our SEL survey at the high school. Our questions do vary from the middle school a little bit, as they're older students, you kind of want to target different things a little bit. So when things go wrong for you, how calm are you able to stay? That's one of the questions off of the SEL survey that kind of targets into that growth mindset area, the self-efficacy area, the grit area, things like that. So these are the types of questions that will kind of slide into those realms. As Mr. O'Brien has said already, the scores are ranked. So when you look at these solutions, like not calm at all, little calm, somewhat calm, very calm, and extremely calm, they are ranked 1 through 5. So when you get an overall score for any given student, the overall score for any question in that group, it's just averaged for what they got. Okay, so whichever solution they may have clicked on, that is their average score in that realm. So, for example, if kind of like kid answered extremely calm for 2 of the questions in that group, but kind of went a little calm on a couple of questions, they'd have an average score of a 3.5. Okay, so once in a while, it does require us to do a slightly deeper dive into these students and say, wait a second, so in this area, they're looking really good, but in this part of, let's call it grit, maybe not, or in this part of self-efficacy or growth mindset, maybe not. So we have some ideas of where we need to look. One of the things that Mr. O'Brien mentioned is that the information here, it's really good for SST. It allows us to kind of provide additional information, maybe where the students' thoughts were on this given day when it was administered.
and provides us with a little more insight on things. As you see for the high school, self-efficacy and growth mindset were also our two major areas of concern. Okay? When we looked at this, we were kind of, Dr. Vieira questioned me, he goes, "Are you sure you're not just copying data?" And I said, "Yes, Dr. Vieira, I'm 100% sure that we did not just copy the data because of the similarities here." So that was kind of our focus through some previous advisories through December and the beginning of January as we parse through this data. And it's going to continue with some of our MyCap pieces as well as we move forward. So under self-efficacy, so I used that 3.5 marker earlier when I was talking about the average score, because that 3.5 marker kind of delineates the green from the yellow, essentially. So we had 62% of the kids score below that 3.5 marker on self-efficacy. So I put a nice little caveat up there for the audience at home if they needed to for self-efficacy, the belief that they can accomplish goals and succeed at tasks. So our goal, with growth mindset being the next piece that we're going to focus on, they kind of go hand in hand. Just kind of like the belief that you can actually set your mind to a task, complete the task, and, do fairly well at said task, given some certain barriers that we might put in your way. So because we have high school students, we kind of throw a few more things at them. So we had a door decorating contest, okay, that we built in. Each advisory was in teams. We focused on this. They would come out, they'd be like, "We have this idea." After one advisory, they would kind of create their ideas. Someone would come up to us and ask if they could use the color copier for things, or if they could use this for that. And I said, no. I would just land on the word no, said think of something else, and see where they would go with it. And ultimately, in my holiday break s'more, I included a slideshow of all the doors. If you haven't seen it already, some of the doors were quite impressive with what they were able to do. Even after myself and other people said, "No, you can't use this. No, you can't use that," just to see what they would do, what avenues they would go, because that's part of the process. If you receive the answer no, what else can you do with these tasks? So we really did focus a lot on that. We also performed something called a change game. So if we click one, so the change game, if we go one more slide.
One more slide.
Thank you. All right. So the change game is one of the highlighted pieces of the Panorama Suite as something that would kind of present an idea to students, present a scenario for students, and then give them something that happens while they're planning something. So with the help of the guidance department, we did focus on a couple of areas. Some of these areas, so we came up with 3 scenarios, a class fundraiser fiasco, a pep rally panic, and a yearbook deadline drama were the 3 scenarios we came up with. You won't find it on the slide for here, but we created these scenarios for the students. They participated in their advisories as a whole group, and some of the responses that they came up with were pretty good. A lot of them, so it was split fairly evenly, with a third of the students doing each of the scenarios, because they got to choose by which scenario they wanted to work on. When they picked the class fundraiser fiasco, because there was a shortage in the item they were selling, that was kind of the scenario. They all wanted to go to the store and purchase more food, or purchase more brownies, or purchase more cookies, things like that. So we were like, hold on, maybe you don't have a car. Well, some got creative and tried to figure some stuff out, and some said, I asked Mr. Genesi if he would go to the store for us. and purchase these things. So there were some varying abilities there, but they were nice and noticed, that, okay, they were thinking about, here's a scenario, something happens, how do I adjust? How can I get through to the completion of this? Which is always kind of our goal, is to kind of help these kids get there. And allowing them to get there in a safe and supportive, environment too. So that way, when it does get to outside of us, and when they don't have us to lean on, they can actually adapt. Adapt or pivot, if you will. So that's where we focused on. Some of the other takeaways, some of the good stuff, strengths and self-management. We do see that every day. Our students here at the high school are excellent. They don't have, there's not a lot of outbursts by students just to gain attention or anything like that. They actually exhibit self-management quite well. They do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. They don't necessarily cause distractions just to cause distractions. They essentially understand time and place for when they can release certain energies, which is nice. Almost 60% of our students reported strengths in over half of the SEL topics. That's always nice. So we do have a lot of highlights as well. Our students are growing, they're growing up, which is nice. We still, like Mr. O'Brien said, I'll say it again, some of our students will have that incident that happened that morning that will affect them that day. That still holds true, but they're processing how to move past that. They're processing how to move beyond that. So, which is always what we're trying to help them do. So, any questions?
I love this stuff. I think it's so important for our kids, because that high school time, you think as having a freshman, I'm like, oh, there's a long time till graduation. There's not. And so having these opportunities to show them that they can do things, they are competent, they can do things. And to your point, all right, well, that happens to all of us, right? My heat might shut off tomorrow morning. Well, I got to figure out how to get it done. These are great skills for them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Haynes. And it's great just for people to see that, there was a cost, obviously, to Panorama and we had a grant the first year, and it's budgeted for the second. But we're taking that, we're not just using this platform and not doing anything with it. It's actually taking the information and trying to drive some change in each of the schools.
Good evening. Hi. So I'm here, there's going to be might seem a lot of redundancy, and interestingly, some very familiar looking results. So there is some consistency. But it's nice to have kind of shared things to work on. So for the elementary school, we had 231 students completed the SEL survey. We had grades 3, 4, and 5. So grades 2 they did not participate in the survey. So it's
There isn't the survey starts with grade 3, the way Panorama has it set up.
And here's a couple of sample survey questions. During the past week, how often did you feel lonely? And how hard do you try to get involved in classroom discussions during this class? So, and if you look here again, that's where you'll probably see it might look a little bit familiar. One thing that's interesting, one area that you'll see there is grit. And it's interesting because grit is not a term that I hear very often in education, right? Interestingly. But it definitely applies, but you just don't really hear it very often. And I wasn't surprised, actually, that our scores there. I think that there's a familiarity thing. We, of course, work with much younger kids in the high school, so right now we're teaching them what these things are, right? And trying to instill these these different traits in a very positive way in the kids. And just grit, I think if you asked surveyed kids, so that could be an area that we could focus on. But the fact that there was such a lack of familiarity, the two that I selected and just discussed tonight were the self-efficacy and the growth mindset. But again, to me, the grit, I was not surprised to see that result there. Self-efficacy. So basically, I can do this, right? That's what it is. I can do this. 35% reported 3.5 or higher for self-efficacy on their most recent SEL survey. So I wouldn't say it was an area of weakness, an area of strength, but it seemed pretty consistent with the other schools. And then if we can go to the next slide, growth mindset. So student perceptions of whether they have the potential to change those factors, right? So that's the I can improve with practice and effort. And again, our scores were very similar. So these are things, again, just having kids really think that they can do it, right? When we do the STAR testing, right, that's I talk sometimes about, that's when the teacher becomes a coach, right? You can do this, you got this, right? That's something that in terms of, basically with self-efficacy, you're going to do this, you're doing this now, but then other things, longer goals down the line, you can work towards this, and having kids know that there's, in this day and age, there's just such a need for immediate gratification. Well, when it comes to growth mindset, you're kind of combating that, right? You've got to look long-term. But again, it's self-efficacy is a confidence, is a belief in oneself. So I think that they really complement one another, and they're nice things to focus on. So, one thing I will mention too, in terms of how are we addressing this, and I'll get to the example in Panorama. I've spoken about them before, are our tiger traits. So we actually started to do mindfulness. We focused on mindfulness in December, because that was just what we had, started with. And then we kind of realized that, we're only in school about half of December. So basically what we decided to do is carry over mindfulness through January, right? Because really, all of these traits are really kind of based on mindful. If you're being mindful, then you'll factor in these additional traits. Interestingly, self-care was June, so we were like, since we're carrying over mindfulness into January and everything's getting kind of bounced a month, self-care is going to go into July, so we can send kids off with a message: take care of yourselves, and engage in some self-care over the summer. But again, going back to these different traits, how we're working on them, how we're focusing on them. Again, I had a conversation just last night. We had a PTO meeting, and we were discussing the tiger traits, right? And the fact that you may not be familiar, I've talked about it a little bit, kids can earn tiger paws when they demonstrate the tiger traits. And then every morning, we pull 2 tiger paws out of the box. And kids, they come, and teachers recognize when they're demonstrating our core values. So what happens is that message is just being reinforced each and every morning. And it's just totally become part of the school culture, right? And we're giving examples, real life examples. And I'm just really pleased, and I really appreciate how the adults at the school are making the efforts and writing these tiger paws, and making the effort to recognize what the kids are doing, writing out the tiger paw. Kids come down, they put it in the box. And, also it's nice to see just the enthusiasm kids have when they come down to the office and they've been recognized and they've won a book, right? In this day and age when we're combating social media, phones and books and whatnot, to see kids really excited about the books. But back to my conversation with PTO, is that it's become such a part of our school, we don't want to stop, right? And there's a lot of books. So last night we were sort of brainstorming on how for next year we can continue to fund this, and maybe come up with creative ways to help fund the books and draw more tiger paws, and just continue it into next year, because it's just really part of our school. But again, it's just front and center with the kids each and every morning. And what I also want to say is that our school adjustment counselor every month goes to every classroom and teaches a lesson on whatever that tiger trait is. So again, right now, with the kids being much younger than the middle school and high school, it's really sort of teaching them, instilling it, having it be part of our culture, part of our everyday, our vocabulary, and so having it become part of the fabric of the kids. So that's really what we're doing. And then again, there are some other examples, we'll get there too, to some things that we're doing, but that's those two things, how we address it. So again, school adjustment counselor, the characteristics and the Tiger traits, core values, right? Focusing on building upon those traits. Our morning announcements, right? Every day we read, we give those examples, we announce kids. Also, the middle of the year survey will be used to measure our success. We're identifying students that score low in the different areas. Right now, we're identifying those kids. Panorama is such a great tool. You can pull up a student and just see so much about the kid. The snapshot that Panorama provides is incredibly helpful. And so basically, these are just some things that we are doing as a staff to address these different areas. And then, one other thing I want to mention is we have the morning meeting platform. So to have morning meeting every day to instill these traits is just, it's just a great way for the kids to start the day. Up here, this is success story. This is an example. It's called the Panorama Playbook, which is just this massive resource of different lessons that you can do, SEL lessons, math, ELA. It's a great thing about Panorama. Every time you go into Panorama, you learn something new about it. And this is an example of an activity that kids can do where they can reflect on a time where they were demonstrating a growth mindset and they were improving over time with a writing activity. Other takeaways, this was one thing I was really pleased and proud of, is 92% of the students at the elementary school responded favorably in the area of supportive relationships, and that put us in the top 10% nationally.
Wow.
So that's amazing that your kids feel that connected to the adults in the school. And again, I was really pleased and proud of that, and that's something that we can really, there's still room for improvement, right? They've got another 8% to work on, but it was great to see that. We scored in the top 25% in the area of self-management in terms of how well kids manage their emotions and their thoughts and their behaviors. So again, that was another positive takeaway. We scored in the top third nationally in terms of students feeling positive emotions. Again, this is really great data, but again, there's opportunities to improve. But it's encouraging to see that, right? We're doing something right. If you look at the bottom, only 25% of the students indicated how they can do better next time when making a mistake on their homework. So that was something that is clearly something that we could improve on, but that's something we can work on with kids. If you flip that one with the first one, I'd be worried, right? Mm-hmm. But that's something that it seems reasonable that we can kind of, again, work on with the kids, instill into their day in the classroom morning meeting, and then just, an area of focus for the kids. And that's it. Any questions?
I just, like you said it at the end, but it goes to the relationships in the building. Like that, we can't find the money to finance that. Like, that is something that people in the building have to do, and that's what matters. That's what makes kids want to come to school.
One of the things I think is unique about maybe Douglas in general, but it's amazing how many of the people work there, live there, live in town, work at the school, live in town, their kids go to the school. It's a very tightly knit community. And I think that's where, to your point, right, about the relationships, they're long-standing, they're strong. So many of the staff members are friends, their kids are friends, and it's a really nice thing about the school.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I just think we have an amazing staff as well as administrators, right? We have amazing people that want to take care. At the end of the day, it's the kids, right? And they do a superb job, and to be recognized, right? This is just one way to do it, and to make sure we're making those connections with the kids and finding the kids that are vulnerable. How do we help them?
Right.
This, I think, is worth, it's money well spent.
It is.
And I just noticed that in one of the statistics you just pointed out was about the kids who had positive thoughts, and that it was fairly high.
Yeah.
And then there was the older kids where they're having all these negative thoughts. And I think it'd be interesting, and I'm sure you guys are already doing it, But to track that, right? Here you have these kids who used to have such positive thoughts, but now they're having, less positive thoughts. What's going on in their life? Something you can zero in with these programs. It's just such an important tool, especially where we're in a society where unfortunately these darker thoughts are creeping in more and more frequently, and it's really becoming a problem, I think, globally. So to get in early is huge. So this is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you very much.
everybody, for
Thanks.
coming tonight.
Thank you. All right. Next, and I'm going to try to make it exciting, is the superintendent's mid-year goal review. All right? So we will dive into this. The first part is there are 4 standards, and every year the school committee during our summer retreat picks one area in each of the standards for the evaluation. Standard 1 this year under instructional leadership, where we did a standards-based units and lessons of support. And to be exemplary in this, it says that the superintendent will empower administrators to ensure that staff collaboratively plan, adapt as needed, and implement standards-based units comprised of well-structured lessons aligned to state standards and local curricula, and that the superintendent monitors and assesses progress. So this speaks to my ability to empower the administrators to make sure that teachers are teaching what they should be doing and monitoring that. So what we're going to talk about is, you have examples here of what we've done district-wide and what's happening in all 4 buildings. I'm not going to go through what's happening in all 4 buildings. I'm just going to highlight one building per standard. It was pretty easy. There was 4 buildings. There were 4 standards. I picked one building per standard, and I'm starting with the primary first. So there is a system. So just district-wide, some of the stuff we've done is, in October, we did learning walks with the principals, just to get inside classrooms and observe what are we seeing, what aren't we seeing, and we're going to do that again in January. All common planning times, one thing that we did this year is all common planning times. Teachers should be talking about program fidelity and ISSP. So what's happening inside the classrooms, what can we do to help students, and what are we doing to ensure that we have program fidelity, which is aligned to our standards and to our curriculum. We also created this year a Google Doc where teachers just putting in what they're doing for common planning time. So for whatever reason, Bob can't go one day, he can see what was discussed, and it also helps out that sometimes Ken can steal an idea that's happening at the high school that he may not think of. So we're able to look at that. One of the goals this year for the end of the year is to have Atlas Rubicon completely updated. For those of you who are familiar with it, it is a web-based program where teachers can have their entire scope and sequence and curriculum online for parents to see what standards are being hit, when we're teaching them, and how we're doing it. So if anyone wants to know when standard 4.237 in ELA grade 9 is being taught, you can go to grade 9 Atlas Rubicon and pull it up there. So we're going to have that updated by the end of the year. All of our walkthroughs, principals are giving that feedback through that UDL lens to make sure those lessons are well structured to state standards. We've looked at ISSP's principals. I know they're looking at them. I look and see, but we sat together for about an hour each and just looked at the ISSPs. What do we see for strengths? What do we see for patterns? What's working? What isn't working? And I meet with principals twice a month, and part of our standing agenda is to look at what's happening in common planning time. What do our ISSPs look like? What are we seeing inside classrooms? Again, to continue that instruction of monitoring what's going on, but also to give them ideas for what they can be doing inside their buildings. Starting with the primary school, and Ms. Socia, you can just see some of the things that she's doing inside her building to ensure that all of our standards are being taught and met through well-structured lessons. She does her walkthroughs. We have our ISSP writing, individual teacher meetings. She meets once every 6 weeks individually with staff just to look at individual student data and staff data. What can we do differently? What can we improve on? What do you need support for? Common planning time has that new focus on teaching and learning, curriculum and assessment. Back in our October PD day, we had Leslie University come and present on literacy intervention and fluencies, just to give teachers some additional ideas. She's constantly having discussions about program fidelity when it comes to Reading Wonders and Go Math. It's interesting because the classes are so close together. You can go inside one classroom and they're doing the long vowel A, and then you go into the next classroom, they're doing the long vowel A, and then you go into the third, first grade kindergarten class. So you can see that everyone is aligned, and you can see where they are in the book. So again, just some of the things that Cindy's doing inside her building to make sure that all lessons and teachers are doing that for standards-based, well-structured lessons. Standard 2, we'll go to the elementary, is around social emotional well-being. Superintendent cultivates a district-wide commitment to developing the social emotional competencies in all students, assess progress using student and staff feedback and other sources, and makes adjustments as necessary. SEL's not going away. You know, we just saw the importance of it now, and it is a continued focus of ours. We heard about it in the intervention blocks, we heard about it in morning meetings. We were lucky to have the grant that we applied for a few years ago to bring Panorama in, and we're lucky enough to be able to continue using Panorama to provide feedback for people. You saw the presentation here today around that. One of the things that we're looking at the middle school and high school, we've started conversations. We kind of have a bit of an infancy program, but Bob and Rob are meeting next week to look a little bit deeper into this, is we need a formalized program. And we're not going to call it Bridges because that has certain things, but we need a...
Doesn't matter as long as it's like...
Yeah. But we need a formalized program that when a student is out and comes back, they're not just getting dumped back into a classroom. We've done things across where we'll put them in guidance, we'll put them here, they'll sit for a little bit with this teacher, it looks different. We're going to create a formalized plan for when kids are coming back, here's what they're doing to transition them back to school. Some kids might only need it for 2 days, some kids might need it for a week, some kids might need it for a month, but the importance is getting them back into schools and getting them back into the classrooms. MARC is a great program at Bridgewater State University. A bunch of our school adjustment counselors went to MARC training on anti-bullying, and it's a train-the-trainer model. What they were trained on is how to help teachers identify overt and sometimes covert signs of bullying inside their classrooms. So our counselors receive that training and in turn are going to be able to work with our staff on it. I put Second Chance Breakfast on here for students around SEL for a host of reasons. And sometimes we do things directly targeted, like that SEL lesson, but we're doing a whole bunch of other things that may not look like it's SEL related, but it is. It's great to see it. I see it in the middle school because that's where I'm at. We have Second Chance Breakfast every day for kids. Kids come down for 10 minutes or so. Not only do they have the ability to eat, which is so important because some kids don't eat at home. Some kids are eating at 5:30 in the morning and now it's 8 o'clock and they're hungry. But the ability to socialize and the ability to talk with peers, the ability to talk in an unstructured way, and to give teachers another opportunity to talk to kids outside the classroom is so huge. So you may not think of Second Chance Breakfast as an SEL touch point, but it's a huge SEL touch point.
I remember actually Bob had talked one time when he had interviewed his students, and that was the thing that they said, like, we just want to talk.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about a specific thing.
We just want to
want
talk. Today, Bob sent out an email to staff that said, hey, if anyone wants to come down and eat their lunch with kids in the cafeteria, come on down. And the 7th grade team, I don't know how fast they got that email, but it was within minutes of the email coming out. They must have had lunch. They all came down and sat in the middle of the cafeteria. They ate their lunch surrounded by all 7th grade students. That says a lot. And that's important for kids to see that. And kids always, what do you eat as a teacher? You really eat the same things we eat?
Burrito bowl was fantastic today at lunchtime.
Okay, so One thing our cafeteria is trying to do is try to bring in great foods, and we saw Alistair talk about, today had a burrito bowl. Did you have it, Bob?
The line was too big.
It was unbelievable.
delicious.
It was really good.
really, like,
It was really good.
Fantastic.
It was really good.
It really was.
Legit good. So at the elementary school, some of the stuff that we're seeing there, Ken talked about the panorama screener and the ability to adapt instruction. He's done so much work with those tiger traits. You hear it in the morning. Today's trait is, today we're looking at, today's trait is the tiger paws. The kids love the tiger paws, and they can turn those tiger paws into getting rewards. Morning meeting. We had professional development with Erin Moore earlier this year, and she brought that little bit of the SEL spin and gave some teachers some ideas of things they can be using inside the classroom. So again, that's that piece of it. Number 3 is community engagement, and it speaks to supporting and empowering all administrators to engage in regular two-way culturally responsive communications with families about student learning. As a district, that panorama has been a great tool for us. It's provided us information to be able to communicate differently with parents because we have everything there. One thing that Panorama has coming out that I don't know if we're going to be able to purchase is an AI component to it, where you can send Panorama a prompt to say, I want to see, please let me know what Paul Vieira's strengths are in these 4 areas and what we can be doing to improve it. Please compose an email to send to teachers of what they can do and parents of what they can do, and then it'll generate that information. It'll give you the ability, you spoke to it, Julia, about please look at any similarities or differences between last year's SEL screener and this year's SEL screener, and it'll do that. So I'm really excited about what Panorama can do to provide us information to communicate it with parents. I recently sent a survey home. We're trying to get some feedback. We have a very competitive team here. There was one building who had double-digit responses, and there was one building who had, I think, just 0 or 1. The building who had 0 or 1 has since sent out, I think, a 1 call, a personal email, a phone call, and at arrival and dismissal has computers set up at the front door.
Really?
No, that part I'm exaggerating.
But hey,
But Cindy does not like to come in second place, and when she found out.
You, Rob.
So we're looking to get some information back. And then last thing we're doing is Dom is exploring a new website. And having, our website is what it is. It's, the intro-level website. He's looking at some things that will give us the ability to have a more robust website, but also the ability to communicate differently with parents for it. The website that he's looking at takes all of our social media, all of our Power School, all the stuff on the website, puts it on one platform. It has an app for it. Then parents can pick and choose what information through the app gets pushed out to them. You can already do that on Power School, but now you can do it with information about notifications about what's going on in buildings. So it's just another way to communicate. We'll focus in on the middle school. One of the things that Bob's doing and has been a great success is community outreach events at the Coffee Bean. Is himself, have you gone out, you just sending counselors? Yeah, Bob's gone and sending counselors out once a month to sit at the Better Bean and say, we're here for an hour and a half, come have coffee with us. And just a way to have parents come in who are open, or any community member, to come in and be able to have that conversation with Bob as a different way to engage. When you walk into the principal's office or the main office, there's a different connotation there. It can be different. It's different when you talk to parents at a basketball game in the parking lot over coffee versus in the main office with the barrier of that counter and all the paperwork in the desk. So again, just a different way. How many parents have you had?
We get a couple regulars.
Yeah.
And it's kind of turned into a nice routine for them. But some of their feedback, you wouldn't expect. Like, I never looked at it that way, or hearing the community's aspect about this. So we really want to branch this out and do some afternoons and evenings for other folks that can't.
I like that.
Yeah. And like, it starts with 2 or 3, it builds to 7 or 8, it gets to 10 to 15, next thing you know, you have 30, but you can't do it all in one night. And then finally, professional culture, models for administrators how to continually reflect about their practice, and empowers administrators to use data research and best practice to adapt practice to achieve improved results. So this is how we reflect as practitioners, and I'll give a story about this. Back in early December, staff members felt comfortable enough coming to me saying, we're a little overwhelmed. And it was for a whole bunch of things. You know, we rolled out Power School, which was a big lift. We're doing some things differently with STAR. We're doing some things differently with ISSPs. We're doing some things differently with Renaissance. It was a lot. So like, is there a way we can scale back a little bit and give us some respite? So a couple of things we've had to do differently is we were going to do, I believe, 5 STAR testing. We did 1 in September, 1 in November, 1 now, 1 in March, and 1 at the end of the year. Staff said, can we make the March 1 optional? So we did. We made the March 1 optional to be able to give them a little bit of, they just felt it was a lot of testing, it was a lot of turnaround, so we did that. The ISSPs, it was struggle implementing the ISSPs into Panorama. For why are we doing it twice? We're writing it, then we're implementing it and putting it in Panorama. So we said, you still need to write your ISSPs, but you don't need to put them in Panorama for the year. We just want you to have them. Panorama made it nice that we could all look at it, so we're just going to do that differently. And then we created some professional development around STAR, around ISSPs, and how, and looking at data to give teachers, and Panorama, to give teachers additional supports for how to use that information. So I had to take a step back somewhat on my plans, because the feedback we were getting was people were overwhelmed. And again, regardless of what you do for work, you always hear, I'm tired, I'm tired, I'm tired. And we hear that all the time from people. We go home every day, I'm tired, I'm tired. But I had to do some digging and I had to do some listening. The feedback was, we pushed a little too much and we had to take that step back. So I have to model that reflective practitioner if I'm asking principals to do it. In terms of what are some of the things we do and how are we empowering administrators to use data and research and best practices to improve results? Like I said, when we meet twice a month, standing topics are ISSPs. We look at them. What's working, what's not working, what have you seen, what do teachers need help with? We talk about MTSS, multi-tiered system of student supports. How are we removing barriers? What have you seen as great examples of how we've removed barriers or how teachers are removing barriers in them? We're trying to use that language, just even like when we talk, like sometimes Bob will say, I saw a teacher removing a barrier, as opposed to just they're naming it using that language. Universal design for learning. Again, how are we engaging kids in the curriculum? How can we set up and have kids interact with information differently? ISO stands for Instruction, Curriculum, Environment, and Learner. Before you can blame the learner for not being successful, you have to reflect back on, is the instruction solid? Do we have a curriculum? And have we created a conducive learning environment for kids? If you haven't created a conducive learning environment for kids, or it's not there, it's tough to blame the student if the environment hasn't been created. So we have those discussions. I talked about the learning walks for feedback. I talked about our leadership meetings, and it really comes down to, I'm very lucky that we have good relationships with the principals, myself and them amongst themselves, with Greg, with Courtney. It's all about conversation, because they have to feel comfortable talking amongst themselves and coming to me and coming to Courtney or going to Greg or whomever it is to solve a problem. Even going to the food service, we use this as an example. Cindy and I joke about, you know where I'm going, right? We try to push different types of kids, because I think it's critically important for little kids to try different types of food, not just hamburgers, chicken nuggets, et cetera, et cetera.
It's crucial.
It's crucial.
It is.
And Cindy's rolling her eyes, but what she was seeing is we started pushing a little bit too much and getting away from. So on the days when we served hamburgers, we had 80% of our kids getting hamburgers and 20% getting cereal. When we served some of the stuff that I like to see, I think is important for kids to get exposed to, that number maybe went from 80-20 to 90-10. And it was a lot of cereal.
Probably even worse than that.
Takes time, though.
Just saying.
It
Takes
takes
time.
time. So again,
Yeah.
Cindy talked, we reflected, Cindy had a great conversation with our food service director, and we're trying to strike a little bit different of a balance, because again, having cereal 5 days a week for breakfast, for second chance breakfast, and then for lunch isn't really what we want. Although we do want to expose kids to things beyond fish sticks, chicken nuggets, and mozzarella sticks.
Like a burrito bowl.
Like a burrito bowl. All right. And then at the high school, what are they doing again? Those weekly SST meetings where they're looking at all the data. They're doing stuff through staff meetings, through UDL, ISSP, and STARS. They're reflecting on the effectiveness of programs at common planning time, and they have weekly admin team meetings to discuss students who are at risk and put things in place. So again, it's a lot of the structures that we've created to empower principals to do those things inside the classrooms.
Can I just say to all of the principals, thank you so much for teaming well with each other, because that's huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not all school districts do well teaming with the principals and between the administration too as well as with our teachers, right? And our DTA and the custodians, like everybody is invested. But it all starts with you because it's your building, right? And you work well together. And I really do appreciate that, because we can do all the things that we want to do and put in place without all of you carrying out that mission. So kudos to you all. Thank you.
Thank you. These are my goals. We set the vision, we put the supports in place. They're the ones who are doing the work, and really the teachers are the ones, boots to the ground, doing the work. Under learning goals, the first one was to see that growth percentage of STAR. We did the first one at the beginning of the year. We did a mid-cycle. We're doing STAR assessment now, the week of the 13th. We'll present in February, March, the results of that. The student learning goal was to write ISSPs 4 times, because we had to break away from that March one. It's only going to be 3. I wanted to provide teachers that little bit of respite.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is that fair for the teachers? Is that, is March the right time to do that? Or do we need to slip that out a little bit more to make
So-
sure we're hearing? Because there's a lot going on, right?
So we're doing the January testing. We always did the March testing, and then we did the end of the year testing. We've eliminated the March testing, which is what a lot of them had asked for. And we're not going to do we made it optional.
Optional, yeah.
Made it optional. So is that your,
I'm just making sure
Yeah.
that there's a happy medium, right? Because kids get tested out, but then it's the teachers that have to interpret the data and then come back and report back to you all to be able to report back to
Yeah.
you. So is that the happy medium is what I'm making sure, right? Because it's a lot.
Yeah, when
It's
we
a lot.
originally did it, we did it 3 times a year. We did September, January, and the end of the year. And the feedback that we got from staff was there was too big of a gap from September to January. And then from January to the end of the year. So then we did the mid-cycle, which people liked for a little bit, and then it was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of testing here. So now it's it's now pulling back. It'd be great to get to the point where we're doing this 3 times a year. We're doing it in September, we're doing it in January, we're doing it in March. How long does the testing now with STAR take? I know it's different in different buildings, but how long?
10 minutes.
20 minutes.
NWEA used to take.
But we're not- yeah.
But STAR, in one class period, 45.
Whole class period.
And then we're giving them time to look at the data for it. So I think if we have to pull back a little bit, we will, but we'll see where we are with this little bit of respite. The communication, the new strategies, you heard a lot of them. That we're trying to find different ways to communicate with parents. Like Bob got a lot of great feedback for his coffee bean. Cindy at the primary school is getting a lot of great feedback from the Happy Mail notes going home in backpacks and the postcards getting sent back home to parents. It's amazing how much people like good mail,
Yes.
right? And when you get something that's handwritten in the mail,
Means
it's
something.
like, we've sent nice emails and you really don't get a lot of responses. Cindy, you've probably gotten, just you alone, about a half dozen to a dozen emails back saying, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And I know you haven't received that many positive emails about emails and newsletters you've sent out. Parents are really embracing and really do like that feedback, and it's just that random thing of like, hey, here's something great we saw happening.
It's personal.
And it's
More
personal.
Personal, you know.
Well, the art of writing, right?
Right,
Of
exactly.
us, you all, I mean us, but you all taking the time to do that, the initiative of doing that, that's huge, right?
So Bob talked about what's going on at the Coffee Bean. Ken's doing some stuff with sending personalized notes about coming to school to try to lower the absentee rate. And then Rob is starting at the high school with monthly videos in January. And then the last goal is to look at school safety. And again, a lot's being done in this area. We were fortunate enough that town supported an additional school resource officer, so now we have Officer Adam and Officer Brett. They interchange. Brett's predominantly at the high school with Finn. Adam's primarily at the other campus. If you ever want to feel like a rock star, just go to Cindy's building with Adam and walk the halls. The kids love him. He's everywhere. Brett is too, but Adam's in the cafeteria, he's in lunches, he's on the third floor, he's inside classrooms, he's at Arrival, he's on the swings, he's at recess, he's in the gym class, he's everywhere doing stuff. And Brett's doing the same thing here at the high school. So for kids to see that, it's been awesome. Adam has lost double-digit pounds, he told us, for the amount of walking he does every day circulating the campus. He loves it.
Yeah, it's really great that we do have the two
So
resource officers. It's really a wonderful thing.
Again, through the support of the town and through town meeting, we're installing probably close to 200 new cameras in all 4 schools. Scott Villamere over there says, Paul, you don't understand how clear these are. Every day, Paul, these are so
Literally,
clear.
literally.
But now we have the ability to make sure that we've eliminated a lot of vulnerabilities in our district. We do, on a regular basis, tabletop activities, probably multiple times a year, where principals are running through scenarios with staff. Okay, this is an incident, what will we do? We've done reunification drills, we're doing ALICE training. Today we had a safety meeting, and one of the things that Officer Adam brought up at the meeting, again, just things you don't think about, is he's getting swipe cards for all the cruisers. Now, every police officer has access to the knock box, which is in the front of the school, which gives them access to the key to the front door. But he's like, if something's happening in the back of the building, you gotta come to the front of the school,
Swipe in.
get the key, walk in the front, then walk to the back of the school, when I could just park my cruiser in the back, swipe and get in. So we're constantly looking for little things that we can do. Over the summer, all of us became Incident Command Level 100 certified. It was put in through FEMA. It's basically the system that FEMA uses. If there's ever a crisis in a school, in anywhere in a town, how is Incident Command set up? Who's doing media communications? Who's setting up ground support? Who's setting out food? Who's doing all this? So we're all trained level 100 of it. It's the same training that the police get, that state police get, that fire, that EMTs. So we all receive that training and have our certificates proudly posted in the office. I think it was either Cindy or Bob who were the first to do it this summer. Yeah, it was Bob. And then he posted his certificate in black and white. Then after Cindy got hers,
In color.
correct. Maybe even laminated. So again, and you can see what the other buildings do. We're always looking to make sure we can keep students and staff safe. So this is, a pretty lengthy thing that we've done, a lot of work, and again, what Courtney and I do with your support is we set the vision and we provide the resources for principals to be able to execute in that building, to support staff, to help support kids. So this is truly an effort everywhere from, like we said, it takes a village, from the bus drivers, to the admin support staff, to the tech staff, to the custodians, to the cafeteria, to teachers, to principals, to paras, to ABAs, to everyone for putting this in motion. As always, I say, obviously we have work to do. It's like home repairs in your house. They're never done, right? So we have a lot of work to do, but I'm thankful for the principals. I just want to present this. Happy to answer questions, and I know at this time we usually set that final date for when my final evaluation. Or we could do it on the 4th if we need a little bit more time, but whether we do it today or we do it the 4th, I know this is a lengthy agenda, we can do that.
All right, so we have elections, so. When in April do we have? Is it the 2nd or the 9th?
April is, we have a meeting on the 2nd and on the 16th.
Because the elections are the first week in May. So if we present on April 2nd, you all get to meet by the 16th, and then the 7th? Or the 30th? We only have 2 meetings in April?
Correct.
So we have to back. So, what is everybody's feelings if I send in advance, get everything together? You'll have the draft format on the 2nd, if you can get it back to me for the 9th, so the 16th we can present.
Go and do that.
I think that's fine.
Okay. So April 2nd. And then we'll present on
Okay.
the 16th.
Perfect. Any questions? Last two things. First is the bully intervention plan. 2 years ago, we put together a policy procedure manual about our plan for bullying intervention. I have Dr. Rosenthal doing a refresh of that document, looking at it, making sure the laws are up to date, running by it through legal counsel, going back and meeting with parents, getting input from the community, and making any changes based off of that, and that'll come to you probably in May, but he started that process. Since the beginning of the school year, like we said, we try to do a lot of PD for staff at the beginning of the year. Those first 2 days and those first 2 staff meetings in September, October, we go over our bullying manual and what is bullying, what isn't bullying, how to report it, what to do, the importance of following the procedure manual. We were lucky enough to send our school adjustment counselors to that MARC training to look at bullying. Some of the buildings have done some direct PD with students around bullying, but we've also been able to incorporate a lot of the themes around kindness into our morning meeting. So I just wanted the committee to know a little bit about that we do have a plan, a little bit about what we've done for professional development with staff and students with it, but that Dr. Rosenthal is going to put together, going to relook at that 20-page document and do a refresh of it if needed and present to you in April or May. All right. And the last fun part of my presentation is talking a little bit about the MCAS and competency determination and question 2. So as people are aware, in the November election, it was overwhelming. The MT put a ballot question on to eliminate question 2 as a graduation requirement. There are a couple nuances to that because it's never that easy or simple. The law states that every school district must provide a competency determination to make sure that kids have met, based off of the 10th grade standards, competency in certain areas. The way the state decided to do that was through the MCAS exam. We've now eliminated using the MCAS exam as a way to measure competencies. But now, the burden on districts is to come up with our own internal mechanism for showing how students will show competencies. So we still have to do a competency determination. It's just instead of using MCAS, we have to come up with another metric or rubric for it. In December, we were hoping that the state would provide us some guidance when we met with Acting Commissioner Russell.
Bless you.
And it was said that it was going to be left to a local decision. Superintendents in the Valley met on Friday and had a discussion because no one wanted to be out on an island by themselves. Principals met again on the Valley on Friday and again had a conversation. We've put together our proposal for the committee of how to measure competency determination, which is going to be aligned with what's happening throughout the state and what's happening in the Valley. I've drafted it. Our legal counsel, Mike Joyce, is looking at it, and at our next school committee meeting, we'll have to do 3 readings of it for what that competency determination is going to be. In short, so we're not burying the lead, is what everyone's doing is you have to pass English 9, you have to pass English 10, you have to pass Algebra 1, you have to pass geometry, and you have to pass biology. Because that's what the MCAS measured, so as long as you pass those classes, you've met your competency determination.
So students that would have been on the alt still will not pass grade, okay.
And that was the caveat that a lot of friends of mine who were special education teachers would say, great, now every kid who was on an alt can get a full diploma. They don't,
Still can't, because even if they had an entry level, to the like entry level curriculum points.
correct.
They still
It's
can't
not measured to
master.
10th grade standards. And that's the piece of the language that wasn't changed in the law, that you still have to measure against 10th grade standards. And what was used was the MCAS. Now we have to create something else. So what schools are doing is, they're doing this now, and then they're hoping that there's guidance somewhere down the line from the Department of Education. A lot of the fear that people are talking about is what's next, like, okay, you say that you're using English 9, how do we as a state know that your English 9 curriculum is aligned to the standards and the frameworks? Rubicon Atlas. So we'll see what happens, but I just wanted to put that on your radar to go over really the nuts and bolts of what happened with question 2 and how school districts are addressing it, and that's going to be through creating their own competency determination, which is based off of a passing grade in those subject areas.
Or pass fail.
There's a passing grade, well, if a D minus or a P is the same thing. There's also a caveat on there for a portfolio assessment that a lot of schools are going to do, and we're going to enter it in there. Some of the issues that have come up is what happens for a kid who moves into the district who failed English 9 in a previous district, didn't make it up, and came here. For us, you need to take, in order to take English 10, you have to pass English 9. In order to take geometry, you have to pass Algebra 1. But what happens to kids who move in? Or what happens to a current junior or senior who maybe didn't pass Algebra 1, is taking geometry, and now we do. So we're trying to put some form of a safeguard in place for kids who either move into the district or who may not have met that criteria and are juniors and seniors, offering an alternative path.
Any other questions?
And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you so much. Moving on to the school committee and the subcommittee, the accounts payable report. I think I did some of these. I don't know
What I did.
So, I'm just going to go by the date.
Sure, do you remember?
Okay. So I do believe the December 5th warrant number 23 meal SS 25, 23 SCH 25, 23 SCHL 25 dated December 5th. That was a batch of 15 in the amount of $386,510.59. Nothing out of the ordinary on this one. I did this one too as well. January 2nd, batch number 27 SCH 25, 27 SCHL 25 in the amount of $402,737.41. There were 13 items and there were nothing out of the ordinary. This one's, I think, because I was away.
Okay. Let's see here. Warrant number 25 SCH 25, 25 SCHL 25, and HS 25-5, with the date of December 19th, 2024. There were 8 batches for a grand total of $280,388.93. Everything looked great. And let's see, last but not least, a warrant 24 SCH 25 and 24 SCHL 25 with a date of December 12th, 2024. There are 5 batches in the grand total amount of $32,383.74. Everything looked just fine, nothing out of the ordinary.
Thanks so much. Can I make a recommendation? Could we have on these who signed them when we do this?
Okay.
Because that would help.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
Because we're
Yeah,
kind of,
Guessing.
we're doing the yo-yo.
Yeah.
But I think that would help.
Yeah, good suggestion.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
Moving on to the consent agenda. December 4th, meeting minutes. Nothing, if nobody has any issues with it, I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
God, motion made by Julia, seconded by Beth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thanks so much. Next one is the infamous December 18th school committee meeting minutes.
First school committee meeting in history.
If no one has any issues, I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Motion made by not Teresa, by Julia, seconded by Beth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone?
Quick enough tonight.
I know. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thanks so much. All right, now we're moving to the vote to reopen school choice for the 2024-2025 school year.
So let me provide some context behind that. We learned from our mistakes, and historically, what we had done is we'd always, sometimes we left school choice open, sometimes we left school choice closed. For the past probably 6, 7, 8 years, we've closed school choice in October. When students who were enrolled in Douglas moved out, we always allowed them to stay in Douglas through school choice. We found out that if you close school choice, you can't do that. So you have to leave school choice open. So it's one of those things. When you find out you made a mistake, you can't bury yourself, you had to stand, you gotta fix it. So over the past couple months, we found this out, and probably in the past month, there's a couple of kids who are in district who moved out, who, because school choice now is closed, would have to leave Douglas. I don't have the heart to have them leave. So the only way to keep them in district, which we had always done, is to reopen school choice. So the funding will still, the other mechanism would be to not open school choice and not allow them to stay without any compensation from the receiving town. So right now, by keeping school choice open, we can allow these students to stay in the district who've been there. A couple of them are at the high school level, and we're following the procedure the way it needs to be done. So it was just a technicality that we had closed school choice and kept the kids. Now we just need to keep school choice open. So I'm asking the committee to reopen for the same grades that we have. We still have the same exact caps, so once we hit that cap, we hit that cap. But it's just by opening it, we have kids who can still stay in district.
So I assume grades 3, 5, 6, and 8, we've hit that cap, and that's why they're going to remain closed?
5, 6, and 8.
Correct.
I move to reopen school choice participation for the remainder of the 2024-2025 school year and keep grades 3, 5, 6, and 8 closed.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded by?
Beth?
Second by Beth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thanks. Next is the Douglas Middle School track and field coaching position.
This is actually a great thing.
Yes, it is.
So the way Appendix C works, or is written, is at the high school level, there's a boys outdoor track coach, a girls outdoor track coach, and then an assistant coach. And we typically had about 30, 40 kids. And they all work together, but there's sometimes they need to be separated. The middle school only had a track coach and then some assistants. Their numbers have skyrocketed in the middle school, where there's 90 kids.
Awesome.
That's a lot of kids. So if you think about, if for those of you who don't know track and field, you have your track events, but then you have like a 15-pound shot put that kids are throwing, a 10-pound discus that kids are hurling, a javelin with a sharp point that kids are tossing at high velocity in the air, and then kids doing triple jumps and long jumps, plus hurdles, plus regular events. One head coach with 2 assistants, maybe 3 assistants, it's too much could go wrong. So what we're asking the committee to do is have the middle school language mirror the high school language, which is you have a boys head coach, a girls head coach, and then based off of numbers, the ability to hire additional assistant coaches as needed.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I already know the answer, but what is Appendix C?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Appendix C is the part of the contract where all the co-curricular stipends and positions are delineated. So from freshman class advisor, sophomore class advisor, NHS
Yearbook
advisor,
advisor.
yearbook advisor, baseball coach, soccer coach, all the stipended positions are all there in Appendix C. Thank you. We're so used to calling it,
And which contract are we talking about?
this is in the DTA's contract.
Yep.
So,
And that,
any other
Douglas
questions?
Teachers Association.
Yeah.
For anybody that might know it, yeah.
and that would cover like the people that don't typically work at the school but come and work to do these coaching positions? Because like we have there's certain coaches that aren't like teachers here, but they are employed to come here after school and do.
So, correct. So when we know what the numbers are, Bob will post for a girls' coach, a boys' coach, and then assistant coaches. Anyone inside and outside of the district has the ability to apply for those positions. Ideally, you want your coaches in-house for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, most are, yeah.
And most are.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have external coaches, like our cross-country 2 years ago, we had 2 people, one internal, one external. I don't know what Heather and Sam are planning for this year, but
Yeah, Heather Tanavika and Sam Copeland coach cross-country together, and they're very dynamic individuals, and students flock to them. So it's really nice to have internal coaches and to have that many students want to participate.
Yes.
and Kathy,
That's
great.
and Kathy and Leslie really built the program. They did it for several pre-COVID, and then they came back, and the numbers were down. They were able to build the numbers back up, and then Sam and Heather took it over for them. So it really started a couple years ago with Leslie and Kathleen, both in cross-country and in outdoor track. But to have we have 300 kids roughly at the middle school, and basically a third of them want to do track and field.
Right.
It's great, and we just want to make sure we have the adults out there to not only coach them,
Oh, yeah.
but just supervise. It is
Yeah.
one thing at the high school to have an 18-year-old kid who's thrown the shot a bunch of times doing it. It's another thing to give a 6th grader a 15-pound metal sphere and tell them to throw this as hard and as fast as they can into an open space and keep everyone safe.
Anybody have any other questions?
I think it's amazing that we have 90 kids that don't want to be on electronics and want to be doing this.
Yep. Great.
That's fantastic to me.
Yep.
I move to approve a boys track and field coach with an FY 2025 stipend amount of $3,100 and a girls track and field coach with an FY 2025 stipend amount of $3,100 for the middle school. These two positions will be added to Appendix C of the Douglas Teacher Association DTA contract.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded by
Julia?
Julia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Good to go. Next is the Douglas High School 110 Cafe revolving fund account.
Here, the hips, knees, but they're up popping tonight. Hello once again. So I'm here in hopes for an approval for Douglas High School, what we would call a 110 Cafe revolving fund account. What this is for is we have some interest in this building to kind of build up our Stars and Stripes program, to possibly include more vocational opportunities for our kids. Something that I think we all find to be one of the more important aspects of those programs. What it would be is provide an in-house during the school day opportunity for staff to purchase coffee, donut, muffin here or there, maybe a hot chocolate, since maybe on Tuesday we'll do hot chocolate, things like that. For staff to purchase something like that from our Stars and Stripes students through like a register that we currently have on site, and have them prepare and be able to have that transaction and that interaction take place in a safe and supportive setting where if a mistake is made, there's somebody to oversee it. Again, all items that would be sold, be sold to staff only so that we stay within our restrictions for school lunches and things like that in the cafeteria, how that operates. Our relative costs, they're looking for donations for startup. Okay, I think they've already reached out to a couple of people for those donations. Portable cups, filters. I know that, I have 2 coffee makers at home and only one person in the house that drinks coffee, so I don't think we need 2 in the house. My wife might beg differently. However, ultimately, they're looking to have the funds that are coming in continue to support the product that they're putting out. And that's what we have to offer. So I'm going to ask if there are any questions first, because I don't think I touched on everything, but if there are questions, please ask.
No questions, but I just think it's so incredibly important to continue to build up the Stars and Stripes program, offer these opportunities, life skills, vocational skills, incredibly important.
100%.
Are they going to be doing it daily? So that they don't have to do their monthly cart, they can actually do it every single day?
That's
And get the routine.
that's the current plan, yes.
That's awesome.
Is to have this be a regular, ongoing thing.
Do you know if they reached out to the CPAC to request funding?
I know.
Okay.
We're waiting for this, and I was gonna talk about it at our next meeting.
Okay. What would happen, this is fantastic, because this says CAF, would it matter if, say they decided to start making, buttons and selling them to, I don't know, but people don't really want buttons, but, non-food items? Could they do any items on this? Or would it have to just be food because it says cafe?
So, because it's starting off with a food idea, we have the CAF piece, and only food items during the school day can be sold to staff.
Yeah, they can't go to
Can't
kids.
be sold to students. So, but if it was another object, I I don't know the answer to that, and I think Courtney and I might have to bounce that back and forth a
Yeah,
little
we
bit.
could talk, the one thing that just popped into my head, but I'm not sure. I'm wondering if, because, so first I want to say, so the reason this is a revolving fund and not a student activity fund is you cannot use a student activity fund,
Right.
even though it's chapter 71 and section 47, that's a different aspect for anything that has to do with the academic day. This does have to do with the academic day, but I'm wondering though, if something like that idea, if it could run through the school store somehow. I mean, we could kind of, we could talk.
Right.
We could talk
Right.
and
so I-
see, if that comes up. I mean, first we need to get this rock and rolling, and that's on a daily, but that's a good question. That's something that we could talk about. We would start there, take a look at that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And I
that-
don't
that was
consider it
along
to be a
my
big
thought,
deal, to be
too.
honest with you, to come back and maybe amend the
Right.
name of it
Yeah,
or something.
right.
Either way, we would find a way, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
That was more my
honestly.
question, if we
Right.
would have to go, like, he would have to go through doing all this again if it's.
Oh, it wouldn't be a big deal, though,
Okay.
at all. Not at all. No. If we were to do that. Yeah.
I think it's
Any other
fantastic.
questions?
Mm.
It's long overdue. I think it's great.
All right. So if there are no other questions, I
Motion?
hope if the school committee is in
Sure.
agreement,
I move to approve a new revolving fund account pursuant to MGL Chapter 71, Section 47, entitled DHS 110 CAF. All revenue will be deposited into this account. Expenditures associated with the specific program will be charged to the revolving fund account.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by
Julia?
Julia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you so much.
you so
Congratulations
much.
to them.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Next is the donation of laptops.
Sergio was not in today, so I will take this. Dom did work on this from Lincoln Sudbury High School. He found that they could donate 10 2015 Apple MacBook Pro laptops. They are in good working condition. They will be used by staff. And we are, of course, developing a long-term program, technology plan for staff device refresh. I mean, we've done a lot, as you've known, especially in the last 5 years, continuing to work on that is the main area of focus, but he thought this would be wonderful to have these 10 laptops.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful. So, looking for a motion?
I will make the motion to move to accept the donation of 10 2015 Apple MacBook Pro laptops from the Lincoln Sudbury School District to be used by staff.
Motion made by Julia, seconded by Teresa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Awesome.
Just to go back to this, so this is great that Dom, through his connections with, I mean, we all know what a MacBook, and this allows us the ability to get 10 computers in the hands of teachers who we don't need them. The other thing that Dom just recently did is he formed a partnership with Quinsig, and there are students in Quinsig who need to go out and do internship hours. So he's having, I believe it started this week, next week?
I believe a week after next.
The week after next, where we have a student coming in, I believe, 15, 20 hours a week to do tech support.
Nice.
So it's through a
Yeah.
partnership through
Right.
Quinsig, and basically, if you've been inside any of the tech people's offices, you hear it all the time, my printer won't print, my button won't click, my computer froze, this thing fell off, I need a new mouse. So the ability to have someone, I think they're gonna be here at the high school for 20 hours a week, to do that, takes a burden off of Dom and allows him the ability to do, and his staff, to do some bigger things. I'm also just going off on a tangent, looking at our agenda of the things that we've been able to do tonight, and I think we all need to be proud and spend a moment looking at that. We know we have things we need to work on. We talk about them all the time, and I don't want to, like I said, we've always acknowledged our areas of growth when we need to acknowledge our areas of growth, and we know that they're there. But just look at what we've talked about tonight. The MyCap that's happening at the middle school, the SEL update that we did. What we did for track and field for 90 kids to be able to support that. The 110 Cafe for kids. Dawn being able to go out and get those 10 computers. Bringing in support for free
Yeah.
for 15 to 20 hours. Further down the line, we have the Disney trip for students. There's a lot of great things that are happening here every single solitary day because of the people that work within the school system. And it's everyone that contributes to this. So I just want to, as I'm looking at this, I'm like, we're doing a lot of great stuff, right? And I just want to not let that opportunity go by without at least stating it and acknowledging it again. So it's a testament to everyone associated with the school department.
And all the things we've implemented that you went over too in your goals report.
I try not to, I
A
do
lot.
want to talk about me, but yeah,
Oh, no,
so
no,
thank
no,
you.
but I mean, again,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
all the
yeah.
staff too that are doing that, it is
Yeah.
a lot that we have implemented
Yeah.
over the past few years. A lot. Yep. Yep.
Kind of saving the best for almost last.
Well, I can't believe we're already looking at next year's registration for preschool. So we're setting up our open house informational night, things like that. But before we can do that, we need to have your approval about the tuition fees. So we are not requesting any increase at this time. But what we are asking is to be able to round off. The last time we increased the rates, we did a blanket percentage increase. So what happened was, we had amounts like 1,848. So it doesn't divide evenly by 10 payments. And now that we're using the Unibank as an option for parents, it just gets a little tricky with the cents and all of that. So we're just asking really to round things off so that they are easily divisible by 10.
And there was very minor change. I think what was the highest one was $2 for the whole
Right,
year?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
very minor.
Very minor.
One was
Some of them were
staying,
just cents.
one staying the same, exactly, so.
Exactly.
So I think it's a good news story. I mean, I know we went to a little bit of a deficit, I think just before COVID hit, right? And so the fact that we're able to sustain the program has grown, right? And we're not raising the rate. I mean, that's huge. But this
Right.
is the building blocks for kids to get them ready to go
Sure,
into. So, I think it just makes sense.
right. And the numbers vary. I mean, this year we have 58 students, last year was 64. It all depends on what they sign up for. If they all do full day,
Right.
you'll have less in the numbers. So,
It's a very important service, I think, to the community, because it's a bargain compared to,
Definitely.
private daycares or, preschools.
Yes.
Which are thousands of dollars a month. So at that rate, it's a savings. And so parents can work and the kids can, get their socialized in the basic foundation and familiarized with the school. So when they go to kindergarten, it's not scary. So I think it's great.
that's the biggest part we're seeing, the ones that are in our preschool as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and then go to kindergarten. They already are so
transition.
ahead of everyone. They already know how to line up, they already know where the bathrooms are, they know how to sit, they know where the square is, they know where the napping room is, they know how, right? You know.
I was just about to say,
Yeah, I know, we know.
if I ever need a pick-me-up, the preschool,
I know.
the three programs and the three
Yeah, the
classrooms in
kids
there
are so cute.
is awesome.
Yeah.
First off, the teachers are amazing, and the parents and the EBAs that are in the program. The work that they do is amazing, the creativity, the energy, the excitement. But just going to visit the preschool is in there. Like when they ask me, when's my nap time? I'm like, oh, buddy. 'Cause, you know the routine. They eat, they go to the bathroom, they have nap time, they go to the bathroom again. Then they go off to recess. They look at me, when's your nap time? I'm like, oh, what I would kill for a built-in 25 minutes in a cot for it. But again, it's amazing. One of the teachers, the 3-year-old, they actually were building an igloo. Did you see it? Yeah, they built an igloo, and they were, trying to teach science to kids about the importance of, when it's cold, why you block yourself in, how to protect yourself from the wind. And they had a little fire in the middle, and what happens, not a real fire, but what happens when you put fire. So just all like the science stuff associated with it. But it was a cool little igloo that they made. So again, lots of great fun stuff happening in preschool, and it is a bargain.
Yeah, so that's, as far as the financial part goes, you can't carry over, war chest, I always call it like a war chest fund over, usually 3 months of expenditures. It's a 10-month program. So our fund balance, as far as year end, I'm projecting 78,000. So we do look at whether revenue covers expenditures, but also the biggest thing is the ending revolving fund balance. And, in my position, I am looking also at revenue covering expenditures, but we have a very healthy projected fund balance, and I can't agree more, and we talk about this all the time. The preschool, children being able to come to our preschool, it reaps rewards. It's not just about the money. And it is vitally important to me as well that child has the opportunity to start off, and it does reap rewards all the way from kindergarten through grade 12. I really firmly believe that. So I think we go another year, but I would recommend for FY '27, we really will have to have a hard look, because it will have been, a number of years, depending on how we project ending up, and all that. But I think we're in a really good place right now, so I think we're very pleased, very pleased.
Yep.
Yep.
If nobody else has any questions, I'd be looking for a motion.
I move to approve the following preschool tuition fees for the 2025-26 school year, which includes no tuition increase, but does include a minor adjustment to make all tuitions, when divided by 10 equal payments, have no sense.
Motion, oops, sorry.
To read that.
Meaning CENTS.
Money-wise. 5 days for full, 6,930. 5 days for half, 3,470. 3 days for full, 4,160. 3 days for half, 2,540. 2 days for full, 2,770. 2 days for half, 1,850.
Thank you. Motion made by Teresa, seconded by? Seconded by Beth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is the 2026 non-school sponsored Florida Disney trip proposal. Near and dear to my heart, I'm just saying.
So again, we had a presentation last time. The committee was getting ready to make a motion to approve the use of the school facilities for the class of 26 non-school sponsored trip to Disney. Unfortunately, we had to end the meeting, so we're just asking the committee to pick up where they left off and hopefully make a motion to approve the use of the building for that.
So I move to approve allowing Brianna Novicki to promote in school for 2026 non-school sponsored trip to Disney in Florida, and use the Douglas High School for parent meetings for the trip.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by? Seconded by Teresa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Have fun.
Agreed.
Next is the Douglas Middle School disposal of old athletic uniforms.
Bob, you want to take that?
Things have a way of piling up, and we went through all the old uniforms back, we could be going back 15, 20 years with these old uniforms. They're not in good shape, they're not even fit enough to give to Salvation Army or some other charity. Instead of having them take up space, ask permission to get rid of them,
Yeah. Yeah.
dispose of them.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Our coaches and athletic directors tried to nurse every ounce out of these things.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's like our
do.
giant junk drawer.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is, is there anybody in the community that wants to come and claim, and maybe we put something else on Facebook?
The waistbands are gone. They're not in shape to even.
But for memory
Right.
boxes, right, from the kids that have already,
We can absolutely hold, if you want to have you check out, grab an old uniform. I don't think we'll have many takers. But we
I'm
can
just-
welcome it, but
I don't know, that's the only thing.
Can we do that?
I mean,
You're disposing of them, so that's the only thing, I'm just asking the question. I don't know how many takers you would actually have.
We could put something out there to say, hey, we're getting rid of basketball uniforms, short sneakers, if you were a member of, and you want an old shirt that
Sure.
You have until blank day.
I did to come pick it up, sure, we can do that.
Yeah.
One man's junk is another man's treasure.
Like I said, you know. I don't know how many
We'll be
takers
selling
we'll
them in
have.
consignment shops in a couple of weeks.
I don't know.
Yeah. Do you want me to make a motion?
Sure.
Okay, cool. I move to approve permission for the disposal of old athletic uniforms that are of no value unless you find value in them.
Come up with a certain date.
Motion made by Julia, second by?
Teresa.
Second by Teresa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Thank you so much. Last but not least, right?
Correct.
The appointment of the, what is it? The Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations?
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, you're looking at me, it's on me.
It's you.
I'm not, yeah.
I'm not getting.
You have to
So again, I've had the opportunity for the past 5 years to work with Courtney, and the role that she does and the work that she does is far beyond business and operations. She's really functioning as an assistant superintendent. I don't think we'd be where we're at if it wasn't for Courtney's work the past 13 years she's been in the district. You know, it's always interesting. Sometimes I'm like, hey, Courtney, I think we should. Nope. But sometimes if it's about books, especially real books, if it's about things for kids, if it's about making sure the teachers have what they need, she finds the money. A few years ago, we were looking at doing safety care training for staff because we need to make sure our staff was trained, and we were trying to figure it out how to do it. And we said, hey, maybe we can do something over the summer, have people come in, pay for them. And Courtney's like, that's a great idea, we'll find the money. If it's for kids and it's for teachers, she does that. But her role, having been doing this for 30 years, she's more than just a numbers person. She gets the people aspect of it. She gets the importance of teaching and learning. She really helps us with our moral compass and making sure that we stay straight and true. We have many spirited discussions about society, the direction we're going in, how to stop this train from moving so fast, and how we can slow it down, and how that impacts kids. And she always brings it down to, she says, value added, and we always have those conversations. So a lot of the things that you see here, a lot of the work that you see is a result of Courtney and her support of the school department. And again, the role that she's done and the work that she's done is far beyond just a business manager. Her excitement today around the Burrito Bowl, right?
I've already mentioned it twice.
You
in
mentioned
this
it twice,
meeting.
and I thank her. She sent me a text and said, please go get one because it's
I
awesome.
did.
And if she didn't text me, I would have forgot. But I was in there picking up. She came in and thanked the cafeteria workers because it was a heavy lift for them to prepare all that. It was all scratch cooking and prep work. It just goes beyond. So as I'm looking at things, like, I want to recognize the work that she does, and it's beyond just that of a business manager. So I approached the school committee a couple of weeks ago, took us some time to get on the agenda, to really change the title to an assistant superintendent for business and operations, because it more accurately represents what Courtney does for our students, for our teachers, for our community, and for the school department.
We see you, we appreciate you, and it's time for a new little change up there.
New byline.
I really do appreciate and thank all of you for the recognition, the acknowledgement. It does mean an awful lot to me. And it's been great working with Paul for the last 5 years, great working with the school committee, and as I said in past meetings, I think that really everybody here, who we talked about, I think that everybody, which is, how many times do I say this to, wants to do the right thing for the right reasons. And that's what it comes down to. So, so I really do appreciate the acknowledgement, and I thank you very much. Okay.
So I'd be looking for a motion.
I move to appoint Courtney Keegan as the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations.
Motion made by Teresa, seconded by?
Julie, ooh, look at us fighting for it.
Go ahead.
Julia.
Seconded by Julia. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Congratulations.
Probably already turning purple.
Last but not least, to the newly appointed Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations, we're going to go into the School Business and Operations Manager's Report.
Okay, the first very easy thing I have on the agenda, I just have 3 very small transfers from the
Thank you
middle
all
school.
for coming tonight.
Thank you.
So they just administratively requested transfers for the middle school. That's the easy thing. Anybody have any questions?
I move to approve budget transfer number 3.
Dated January 15th.
Dated January 15th, 2025.
Motion made by Beth, seconded by?
Julia?
Seconded by Julia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining?
Okay. So next on the agenda, we have Dr. Rosenthal here as well. This evening, I'm presenting to you some information on an update as well on the FY25, overall operating budget for the school district. One of the things that has happened to us this year, to the district, these things can happen. You can have situations, it doesn't matter whether it's special education or it could be repairs, it could be a number of different things that can arise. This year, we do happen to have there's quite a large increase in special education expenditures to the FY25 budget. And they were in the medical, therapeutic, contractual services area, as well as the special education tuition accounts, as well as the district-wide special education transportation. So what I have been doing, a few weeks back, I did bring a bunch of transfers, and we've done some reclasses as well to get things to a large extent in line. The transportation account particularly, that's a separately voted warrant article at town meeting, so it's not part of our regular operating budget, but it is a separate warrant article, so it's a one-line number. You can't go over, there's no way of transferring or moving any funds around like we do with the overall operating budget. It has like 800 different lines, so you can move funds around if you have vacancy savings, things of that nature. So all of the overage that as of, and actually this is a little bit outdated already, but as of 1/2, $331,352.05. I did move that into the circuit breaker revolving fund. I moved the funding source for some purchase orders, and we did reclass some invoices as well. We may have some more coming. There could be some other changes as well. As we all know, special education throughout every school year can have its changes, up and down. Students can move in, that would be an increase, but also sometimes you can have a student that's out of district move back in. There could be where maybe when we were budgeting the prior year, we thought at that time it would be a residential, but maybe through some changes, maybe it's at a lower cost school. The point I'm trying to get across is special education has its ebbs and flows, both programmatically with the students themselves, just to try to get them where they need to be, and also financially. I do want to let you know that while I did move the transportation to the circuit breaker account, I do want to let you know that as the last couple of years, due to change in legislation and also funding, for the circuit breaker account, we do now receive some reimbursement for transportation. So for the past several years, we have received some reimbursement. So certainly, even if, for some, let's put it a better way of putting it, I did not even think of going to the town for any funding, because the right thing to do, because it's not our money, it's not my money, you know, you have to look at it holistically, and, you know, it does, where we did receive some transportation reimbursement, certainly we could use that as a funding source. Obviously, we weren't expecting to use it for transportation this year, but that being said, we did do that. So the, as far as the tuition accounts, current budget status and all, just with everything, well, actually, this is outdated. We're actually, I know it says 48,000, you know, in the black because of all the changes that I made, but we do have a bunch of other changes that have come through since I did this, okay? So we'll have to update you again at the next meeting. And with the contractual services, that's medical and therapeutic. Dr. Rosenthal can certainly talk more about those types of services. That went way over as well, about $265,000. So the long, and just to be clear, this one-sheeter that I have in front of you summarizing everything within those 3 accounts, I am giving you information on the general fund, the circuit breaker account, and the grant, which is just a $240 grant, in which we offset roughly $280,000 in tuitions every year. We will be updating this as we go along. I have to be honest with you and say, at this point, even with this in front of you, as far as it, because I gave you the general fund report, there are still some negatives in there, but I was awaiting some further information. But certainly, there may be some negatives within those particular individual accounts, but our overall, which I'll get to in a minute, our general fund is fine. We're definitely well in the black overall. But I just needed more information, and also I knew some more things were coming along before I do my next big thing of covering things throughout the various accounts. That being said, before I get to the general fund and further on, I do want to let you know that you know, we may have to go into doing things with school choice as well to do some of the coverages. What that looks like right now, I don't know, but we'll get to that when we need to, okay? So that's where we are right now. I'm Dr. Rosenthal. Did you want to come up and?
Just before
Yeah,
Greg comes up,
Yeah.
you know, Connie brought up and talked about some movement and some large sums of money. This wasn't as a result of any type of mismanagement. This is driven by student needs, and we've all seen the increase of mental health issues across the nation, and Douglas is not immune to that. So, starting last year, over the summer, at the beginning of this year, we had various students whose needs changed for a whole host of reasons, and we weren't able, and no public school would be able to handle the needs of these students. So we had to find an appropriate placement for them to get the help and the support they need to get better and get well and also be able to learn. And the cost of that is not cheap for the placements of the schools, but it's also the transportation to get them from Douglas to wherever they're going. And you hear a lot about school districts building sub-separate programs and building programs. Public schools don't have the types of programs in place to
These types of situations.
for these types of situations. So I just wanted people to know that it wasn't like we just, you know, didn't have things internally. These are some very, very, very high-profile kids who are struggling tremendously and just need supports beyond what a public school can provide.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm dealing with a little bit of a cold right now. So, some of the unexpected expenditures this year, we kind of talked about. I can't go too far into detail just due to confidentiality purposes. There have been students associated with Department of Mental Health and components with that, so we're partnering up with them already. I can say that for all the unexpected expenditures, the district has exhausted all options within our abilities here. A lot of things that we put in place, such as our own instructional practices, sub-separate programs, and if that's not something that is meeting the students' needs, we've provided a 45-day evaluation in an out-of-district school, kind of as a stop part with, let's really assess what is the students' needs in a setting that is geared towards supporting students. That has gone both ways. One, we've returned students back to district using that method, and some, it was identified as needing supports outside of what we could provide. Our own staffing at the beginning of the year, I want to say it was the week before, maybe 2 weeks beforehand, our full-time OT resigned, going to another district. That was unexpected and not identified. We were actually very encouraged because we, for the first time, had full OT coverage. We hired a half-time OT this year. And unfortunately, the full-time OT left us. We interviewed, we identified a person, we offered a position, they declined it. We interviewed again. The second person declined it for family reasons. Unfortunately, both of them were going to be very qualified people, and at that point, we're already missing services, so we had to do a compensatory letter, and that's when we contracted with French River Educational Center, who already does our speech language services. So, again, an unexpected expenditure. We've had Department of Ed's guidance, when you have a student move in from a collaborative, there's no move-in loss. So we had someone move in at the end of last year, again, another unexpected expense, and we own them. If it was a private school, we wouldn't. There's a move-in law for that. Unfortunately, it was really at the end of the year, and unfortunately, we couldn't foresee that. So there's been a few things that really has impacted the budget, not only for this year, but for next.
So the amount, as of 1/2, overall was just under 549,000, and it's definitely going to increase. So like you said, it definitely affects our FY26 as well. But I also want to let you know that, we had right here. So our carryover into FY25 for fund balance was 654,333. We will basically use pretty much all of that. But that being said, the revenue that we'll be getting for Circuit Breaker in FY26 will be based on the increased expenditures for FY25, and Greg will be preparing for me a spreadsheet just for an estimate for us to have a gauge, including the tuition transportation aspect as well. And I have to be very prudently conservative on the transportation percentages as far as doing our budget planning for FY26, because it's ranged anywhere from 44%, 56%, 75%, 57.756% actually, 44%, 75%. So it's all over the place. And the other thing is that we may be eligible, another thing I want to make sure I state as well, we may be eligible, again, when Greg puts together that thing, DESE will be sending out an email to the district asking if we'll be applying for extraordinary relief, but we have to do he has to do a calculation to see, so that's a possibility as well, and that will, if it's extraordinary relief, that has to be spent by June 30th, 2025. All that means we move expenditures that were already over into that, so that'll help us by whatever amount we get. That'll help us by that much rolling into 26. And I don't know if they'll have that additional aid that they had last year, that other relief aid. That works differently. That's not a June 30th thing. But we'll see, in DESE, every year it's something different, and the guidelines are what they're doing. So, of course, because those 3 words, subject to appropriation. So there are a few things that may mitigate extraordinary relief this year, possibly that secondary relief. And also the fact that our FY26 revenues are based on the 25 expenditures, after taking off the 50,000 roughly foundation amount for each one, and then the percentage, whatever it is, and we don't know that until they finally do it. The highest it can be is 75%. But so that remains to be seen. Unfortunately, that's not until the end of the fiscal year that we find that out. Even just preliminarily, it's not until next year, September, I'll actually get the amount. The final, so a little bit late.
The extraordinary relief there would need to be an increase, 125% more than the
Right.
previous
The
fiscal
private,
year.
yeah, the previous year, yep.
So
We already
we didn't run our numbers, but we also had some students age out that were
Eligibility.
in a residential placement last year, which cost more. So we're running the numbers, but I just want to be mindful of that.
Yeah, so we'll have at least a preliminary
Yeah.
projection, very preliminary. So, so as far as does anyone have any other questions on the special ed?
I do.
Okay, sorry.
Absolutely, kids 120,000% need to get the services that they need.
Absolutely.
And we absolutely do that all the time, and we want to take care of people, but I would personally be interested to know a little bit more of the breakdown with some of these contractual services, because as we're looking at our budget for next year, how much are we spending in compensatory services right now? Backdating things that we didn't offer. Looking at things like, are we spending sub-nurses or contracting nurses that if we had them in district, their rate of pay would be less? Like, I know that just from signing bills and stuff, sometimes we contract with BCBA's to come in. We're paying a significant more amount. I would really like to see more of like really looking at those things, because if we need to increase a position, I would rather hire another superintendent, for example, if it costs less than contracting
only
people
one.
to come
I know.
in. That's why I said it, because if I said a different position, somebody would say
Yeah.
I was requesting a certain one.
Okay.
But I really think we need to really look, we can't keep playing catch-up. We can't keep doing this. It's not fair to the kids, it's not fair to the staff, it's not fair to the taxpayers either.
Or the families.
Or like, we really need to look at, you know what, yeah, maybe we didn't quite meet the criteria for an extra position, but if we're paying it in compensatory services, we're paying it in contractual services, it makes no sense to continue to do the same thing.
We can get that for the next meeting? or
Yeah,
is that
they'll
too
have
soon?
to,
Yeah.
that, I don't have, yeah.
Okay,
They can-
yeah.
That works
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate I understand what special like, I'm seeing it across the state, and I understand that, but
It's a good analysis to do.
No, it is, it's a good idea, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Sometimes you need to look at things from a different lens. Yep, makes sense, yep.
Anything else? Thank you so much. Hope you feel better.
I feel better.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
So the next one is the FY25 General Fund Report. So like I said, so if we just want to flip down to page 30.
That's where we're going. That's where I went. I went to 30.
So, I mean, you can see we do have a balance of $558,912.83 as of 1/8. So, I mean, obviously, we're still in the black. But I do want to call to your attention, though, that, you know, for FY25, we just have a balance of 4.3% of the budget, and I gave you the figures for 23 and 24. We were at this point 9.8 and 11.9. So, I mean, it's just showing you how, you know, mid-year. Now, not a perfect analysis, because just something being posted one day before or one day after
Right.
that time period can throw, but that's a significant difference. So, but again, we understand, you know, why, but we're still in the black. We are in the black, we're okay. I will continually update the school committee, continually work with the special education department to, you know, see where we are, make the adjustments that we need to make. But more importantly is reporting to you guys because of the effect it'll have as well on 26. I think that's the biggest thing. That really is the biggest thing. I know that we have the funds certainly to cover things this year, but, you know, in the 13 years I've been here, we've never had anything like this. We've gone this low, so, you know, unfortunately. So I did provide to you the special sped circuit breaker fund, that historical trend that I do, with the updated projection, showing that right now, but it's already outdated, the balance of, and you see, I had to take out the contingency, there's no, we can't do that, so I just wiped that right out. So the fund balance projected as of, you know, 1/2 was $143,464, but I already know that there's more after that, so that really wipes that out. And school choice, I didn't really change this at all. What I did for FY25, I left that pretty much where we were, you know, when we planned the budget, but I added the 26 column, put very preliminary, just to start looking at it. We'll keep updating this as we go along, just to kind of show, sort of, because we already knew for '25 that we're going a little bit out on a limb. We increased, but I said, remember I told you, I would never, put anything before the, superintendent or you guys if I couldn't sleep at night. Obviously, would never do that. I would be arguing with you guys still here for, if you just say, oh, no, we don't want to do this. But, we all felt comfortable. And we still would if it weren't for the increase in expenditures. And again, this could have happened with building issues or something too. I mean, honestly. So I will this is just a, for here and now, but that school choice is one we'll just, as we go forward. Because as you know, the two largest ones to offset the budget when we're working on '26 is going to be that circuit breaker. And I already explained some of the positive things that might happen, and the school choice, and what we have at the end of the year. Now, you see that I put in 200,000, that's that carryover, the reclass thing at the end of the year. I'm not sure about that at this point. So don't really look too long at the school choice one. Just look at it fleetingly, because it's going to be updated regularly. Does anyone have any questions overall, or?
It's just interesting how we had, just our trends, we have.
Oh, yeah.
No rhyme or reason.
Well, it
Well,
does
there is,
vary.
but-
Well, there
Right,
is.
but
There
there's-
absolutely is. There is.
Sorry.
There is.
There is, but.
But it's not like you can think, okay, well, there's going to be this many more preschoolers. You can't,
But I thought you were talking about were you talking about the circuit breaker? Yeah, you were looking at that, yep.
Yep.
But as you see, just to point out one thing, is the number of eligible students can remain pretty much the same, but the expenditures vary wildly because of the great difference. A school could be $40,000 a year, $250,000. If you remember, a few years back, we had 2 students that cost $500,000.
right.
So it does vary a great deal. And I updated this, I don't know if you noticed a change, but I updated this a great deal. I spent almost over half a day on it. Now I've got exactly like how DESE has it. I've included I've separated everything out, transportation, and I've got both of the percentage rates too, for both the instructional expenditures, tuition, and also the transportation. Just to have that, increase in data there. So we'll just see how that goes going forward.
And these don't just include out-of-district students for circuit breaker. That doesn't necessarily, it just means the total cost of what it costs to educate them is above a certain amount.
Oh, no, it's, actually, I didn't bring it with me. I've got it in my FY '26
It's okay,
binder.
we can talk about it
This thick, because the circuit breaker is very complicated, but it is only certain expenditures. Because you remember, we had that situation
Yep.
because we had some things that we shouldn't have.
That's why I was trying to.
Yeah, but it is typically, just to kind of generalize, it's mostly tuition, because keep in mind, it has to be services for one student, directly to that one student. And the threshold alone is $51,721. But so for that one student, there's no, in other words, it'd have to be a dedicated teacher, which of course we don't. That's worked with them 24, the whole entire time, and that's just not the case. So it's 99%, and we could check with Greg to see what else is in there, but I believe it's all tuition, and then the transportation, the out-of-district transportation.
Okay, so this would be.
Only, yep.
Okay, so this
Out-of-district
wouldn't
tuition,
really be
out-of-district
in-district
transportation.
students.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm done, sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Anybody else have any?
Anybody else have questions?
So, I thank you, Courtney, for taking the time, to be conservative. I know this is going to be a watch item. I'm going to ask that at every school committee, we at least have an update on where we are with special ed, because it impacts all of the budget. I think it's just.
Yep.
It's we want to do the right thing for our kids in our district, right? And this is doing the right thing. And we just need to be able to figure out where we're going to go and take from. And so I appreciate the time that you've taken to update this, and obviously it's moving, right? So we know we have circuit breaker fund we can use. We can use school choice revolving fund, but we're also sending over on the town side, the transportation stuff. And so we're cognizant of where we are and how we're going to make this work. I do want to give a kudos to Matt Wojcik, who is, also working with us collaboratively to figure out how to get the funding sources in place. Because again, it's not just one side, it's everybody working collaborative, teaming together on how do we solve this and do the best thing for our kids. So.
Yeah.
And again, if we've heard it once, we've heard it a million times. Courtney likes to be prudently conservative, right? And she says it all the time. No, I'm not gonna, I know what stories to tell. And a lot of times people say, geez, come on. This is why she's prudently conservative. We all have, call your rainy day funds, and sometimes you need to dip into your rainy day funds twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year. Sometimes you go 8, 9 years and not have to dip into it. But that's why she's prudently conservative, because when things like this happen, we were able to internally cover these costs and not have to go back to the town to ask to cover the cost, which would then take away from other projects that all the other town departments could potentially look at. So, I know people, we always laugh at the prudently conservative, but we know why she budgets that way, so.
And you really have to have this institutional knowledge about the whole, so when I'm sitting there at my desk, I'm really, you really have to, honestly.
I know.
I have to think to myself, we've got a 45-year-old building, we've got a 20-year-old building, I could see the repairs we've been having, they're ratcheting up every year. It's just, so I have to kind of look at that whole, in other words, it's that liability exposure that I have to think about district-wide and try to come up with something, but yet we want everybody to have what they need. It's just.
And those are the discussions we have.
It's a holistic approach, right? Is how you're doing it, but you want to be, like I said, meet the needs of what we need to do to run this district, but being prudently conservative so that if and when something happens, we can weather the storm.
Absolutely.
Because we could always present a budget, and we do, how our preliminary one, we could say, you know what, we're not going to do that hard work of looking at, we got that money in school choice. I'll just take all that school, we'll just dump it in there. No, you have to think prospectively for future years. It's not a one-year deal.
Yep. And I think that's how school
don't know
districts,
what
and if we've
happens.
watched around our school districts around us,
Sure.
they're all in trouble because they weren't prudently conservative enough to look at everything from a holistic viewpoint.
As best we can, because there's no crystal ball.
No.
I don't have one of
And remember
those.
last
And it wouldn't
year-
work anyway.
And last year, where school districts were cutting staff,
We were adding.
cutting resources,
We were adding.
we added.
Correct. So I appreciate, because again, we're able to weather this storm and figure out an action plan, a course of action plan of how we're going to do this without having going back to the town. And I think that should be recognized too as well. So-
On a number of different levels, to your point about maybe looking at construct, there's a number of different things that we can look at internally as well to try to mitigate, improve, or whatever that can,
Yep. So again, thank you for the hard work, because I know that it's been stressful the last couple of weeks. Working through this, trying to figure out and come up with our new game plan, right? And it'll evolve as we go through until we have our next school committee meeting, which is on February 5th. It'll evolve, but I know that we're in a good place. You've got it, Greg's got it. We will figure out.
It's covered.
Yes.
It's covered.
So-
No red signs anywhere. Go team.
Yes.
That's what I feel like saying. It is a team.
Absolutely.
And we've said that a bunch of times tonight, but it is true.
Anything
Not
else?
tonight.
Oh, I'm all set. Thank you.
Any other topics not anticipated?
We're good for tonight.
Woohoo! I would be looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Julia makes the motion, seconded by? Teresa. Seconded by Teresa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? We're good to go.